All right, welcome back to the channel. So it appears that Canelo Alvarez trainer Eddie Reynoso wants zero smoke with Errol Spence at 160 pounds, and I think I know why. Speed kills, friends, and that's something these Euro bums that he's fighting right now do not have. Let's talk about Eddie Reynoso, Canelo Alvarez, and Errol Spence, and what I believe is the game plan for Canelo to keep him away from athletic fighters, probably for the remainder of his career. Let's talk about that, and definitely Errol Spence, in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So there's something in boxing called a matchmaker. If you're not familiar with that is because you're new to the sport or you just don't pay that much attention, a matchmaker is a guy that works for the promoter, and it is his job basically to arrange the fight card, to make sure that everything is working in the fight, people have what they need, all of that good stuff, but also to make sure that they match fighters that will do two things. One, entertain the fans, and number two, give you the result that you expect as a matchmaker. Matchmakers are the guys that sit back with the cigars, old fat men, bellies hanging over their knees, looking at all the young fighters throwing punches in the ring, and will tell you, this guy will beat that guy, this guy will beat that guy. That's what a matchmaker does. And Oscar De La Hoya at Golden Boy Promotions, Bob Arum at Top Rank, and I guarantee you Eddie Reynoso and Chapo Reynoso know a whole bunch of matchmakers and know the discipline well. Now, why do I bring that up? I bring that up because Eddie Reynoso was asked by ES News, Ellie Sethback, shout out to ES News, shout out to Ellie Sethback, who I did meet in San Antonio briefly. Seemed like a really, really, really nice guy. Kind of shocked to meet me. He probably didn't recognize me, but I was like, hey, reporting. And he turned around and said, what's up? That was pretty cool, man. I like Ellie Sethback. I was a bit of a fan, man. So Ellie Sethback says to Eddie Reynoso, hey, Eddie, what about this Errol Spence, Canelo going down to meet Errol Spence Jr. at 160? Are you okay with that fight? And Eddie Reynoso said, no. And when he said, no, I was distinctly reminded of the scene in Friday where there was a man, where Debo, rest in peace to Tiny Lister, rest in peace, Debo, one of the most famous scenes is where Red comes to get his bicycle in Friday, and Debo said, yeah, man, come on, I got your bike right here. He lays him out, his daddy jumps out the car, and he was like, hey, he said, you want some, old man? And then after Debo said, you want some, old man? Red looks at him like, no, and gets in the car and goes. Now, that is a bit of an exaggeration, dog, but for real, that's the expression that Eddie Reynoso had on his face when he was talking about Canelo Alvarez moving down to 160 pounds to fight Errol Spence Jr. Now, why do I believe that that is significant, and why does he say that? First of all, the idea that Canelo Alvarez cannot make 160 pounds is ridiculous, because he just made 160 pounds to fight Danny Jacobs the fight before last. Okay, so the idea that he can't make it down there is silly. He is a 160 pounder. He's not a 168 pounder. The reason why he's at 168 pounds is because it's not a stress on his body to lose weight, and the guys are slow. The guys are slow. Now, that is why I'm saying that Eddie Reynoso, Chapo Reynoso, and the brain trust around Canelo Alvarez know full well what that dude's kryptonite is. And Canelo Alvarez's kryptonite, my friend, is speed. Speed of foot, speed of hand, but more specifically, speed of foot. Because Canelo Alvarez has everything that you need as a boxer, except fast feet. He is a plodder. He plods forward after you. If he's fighting somebody that he can't walk down, he will walk backwards and get up against the ropes and invite the guy to come to him so that he can then counter. I had this debate with somebody a couple years ago where I was like, because I'm a huge Canelo Alvarez fan for real. And it may not seem like it because I criticize him, but I'll criticize Errol Spence too. I just say what's on my mind about an individual circumstance. I could be wrong, I guess. Not often. But anyway, you get my point. And Canelo Alvarez, I'm telling you, does not like speed. If you look at the fighters that Canelo Alvarez has had problems with and that he's lost to, those took place at 154 pounds against people that have fast feet. Floyd Mayweather Jr., fast feet, which allows him to stay out of range from Canelo Alvarez when he wants to stay out of range with Canelo Alvarez. Fast hands, which means he can time Canelo Alvarez, he can punch with Canelo Alvarez, and he can be up out of there. Same thing happened with Erislandy Lara. Same thing happened with Austin Trout, except for Canelo Alvarez got the decision with Erislandy Lara, and he got the decision with Trout. I'm telling you, that's the reason why Eddie Reynoso, it's like I can hear Eddie Reynoso playing like the Mickey Goldmill, the Mickey Goldmill in Rocky. Remember the movies with Rocky Balboa and his trainer? And I do believe it was the third Rocky. There was a scene where Rocky Balboa is at the top of the world, right? The top of the world, and he's got like 10 successful title defenses in the heavyweight division. And there's a number one contender named Clubber Lang, and Rocky's like, man, I want to fight this guy Clubber Lang. I'm sick of him. I'm gonna fight him. And Mickey said, you can't do it, Rock. You can't do it. He'll kill you, Rock. He'll destroy you, Rock. He's hungry, Rock. That. And then why did he say? He pointed to the fact that he was like, look, man, you should have been out of there in that last Apollo Creed fight. My job is to keep you safe, to keep you healthy, and to keep you earning money. That's my job. That's what Mickey Goldmill said. That, my friend, I do believe is what Chapo Reynoso and Eddie Reynoso are doing for Canelo Alvarez by moving him out of the 160-pound division and keeping him away from fighters who have fast feet and fast hands, and have him fighting guys that are, doesn't matter how big they are, they're not that skilled and they're slow. And if you already know that you have the ability to score when you want to score and they can't score on you, and these guys do not carry any real punching power, Canelo Alvarez is just walking straight to them, knocking off their punches, blocking and parrying their punches, getting up close to land hooks to the body and overhand rights to the head. Canelo Alvarez, when he's in close, it's a really good way for him to fight because he's so good at slipping shots. But you're not going to slip shots if you can't get in range, and you're not going to slip shots that are going to your abdomen. So now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I'm putting Canelo Alvarez and saying, oh, there's no way Canelo Alvarez can't beat Errol Spence Jr. at 160 pounds. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that fights with Jamal Charlo at 160, Errol at 160, Jermell at 160. If Erislandy Lara went up to 160, I know he's older now, but Demetrius Andrade at 160, they're all going to pose for Canelo Alvarez those problems that Canelo Alvarez has historically not dealt with well. And I'm telling you, that's why he's at 168 and 175 pounds. It's not because he outgrew 160 pounds. Again, Canelo Alvarez fought at 160 pounds last year, less than a year and a half ago with Daniel Jacobs, okay? He did not continue to grow, all right? He has not grown. He's not outgrown 160 pounds, dog. He's 5'6". He's a pile of muscle. He can get down to 160 pounds easy. But when he does, he's going to be a fighter that ain't any taller, ain't any longer than any of the 160 pounders. He's an exceptional fighter, but he's slow. And that, I'm telling you, is the thing that Eddie Reynoso is keeping him away from. And it's the thing that I think people should understand about boxing. Even when you look at like when Canelo was fighting Rocky Fielding, and when you look at this Callum Smith thing, that height is not going to be a problem, I don't believe, for Canelo, because there's no way the referees are going to allow Callum Smith to fight Canelo in a manner where he could really use his height to take advantage. And what is that? By jumping on the back of Canelo Alvarez, putting your hand on his back and pushing him down, jabbing past him, falling forward, grabbing his head, pulling his head down, hitting him hitting him on the inside, then pushing him off. He's not going to be able to get away with that with Canelo Alvarez, even if he was big and strong enough to do it, because the refs are going to stop that. They'll really only let that stuff get away with when you got a taller, bigger fighter that the refs and the power that be don't mind seeing win. Other than that, they know how to allow a guy to work his way on the inside and beat the guy up. And that's what's going to happen with Canelo Alvarez. But I'm telling you, don't let the size, the freak show size of Callum Smith fool you. Callum Smith is not the caliber fighter of an Errol Spence. He's not the caliber fighter of a Jermell Charlo. He's not the caliber fighter of a Jamal Charlo. He's not the caliber fighter of a Demetrius Andrade. What he is a spectacle meant to make Canelo Alvarez look good. And I do believe Eddie Reynoso and those guys don't have any problem making that money and going forward, because again, like Mickey Goldmill, it's their job to keep him healthy and to keep him winning, not to set him up with the best fights possible that he has a legitimate chance to lose. And I'm telling you, Canelo Alvarez has not taken a fight that he had a legitimate chance to lose probably since Floyd Mayweather Jr. And even in the Gennady Golovkin fights, dude, Gennady Golovkin was the same thing. Slow, methodical, plotting, and Canelo could get away from him whenever he wanted to. Gennady Golovkin could not get away with him, and he could fight that fight wherever he wanted. And that is a better style matchup for Canelo than somebody like Errol Spence or somebody like Jamal Charlo. And I don't care about the weight classes, but that is what's going to go down. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.